Cool wintry weather in Adelaide. I think it's probably wintry just about everywhere, but golly, it's that time of the year, so I suppose we shouldn't complain. I got a few trees out there that, because when the soil gets very, very, very wet, it doesn't take much to blow over even a big tree. Anyway, it's nature at work. And I think we have some good news about the koala, Pete. What were you telling me?
Yes, she'll be released tomorrow back into her...
Okay, so when we record again on Thursday, we'll get some pictures to show you of... has she got a name yet?
Yes, Harriet.
Harriet. Harriet the koala. Okay. All right, we'll get some pictures up on Thursday for Harriet. Anyway, hi, welcome to the program. And now all you got to do, by the way, is to, if you want to listen to us as a podcast, if you've got one of those Google Nest things, or a device, as they call them, all you do is say, hey Google, play Jeremy Cordeau's podcast of the Court of Public Opinion, and there it will be, and I will be, and Pete and I will be with you every day. So you can catch us on Facebook or on a podcast, whichever's going to be more convenient for you. But as long as you do, we would be very flattered for you and your interest. Some of the dates before we get into the things of the day. June 27. Jack Lemmon, one of my most favourite people in all the world. Delightful man. Just the most charming, unassuming, easy, real star, real old-time star. One of the nicest people you could talk to in your whole life. And I think I spoke to him at least twice about movies and things that were coming out, Days of Wine and Roses. There was a thing called Missing that he did. The thing I really did love of his early work, and I mean back in the late 50s, was The Apartment, which he did with Shirley MacLaine. If ever you get a chance to have a look at The Apartment, you would love it, I think. I think you would. 2001, Jack Lemmon dies of colon cancer and bladder cancer. He was only 76. And he did all those movies, grumpy old men movies, you remember?
Did he do The Odd Couple?
Did he do The Odd Couple? I don't honestly know. But those grumpy old men movies were fantastic. The first automobile seatbelt legislation was enacted. Illinois, 1955. Golly. Well, I've got cars in the, 60s, 50s and 60s. And we don't have to have, with old cars, seatbelts in them. I know people say, you got to put seatbelts in them. I'm sorry, that doesn't look right. Anyway, they are grand old ladies, and grand old gentlemen, and they don't get put in any kind of danger, so I don't worry about seatbelts in the old cars. President Paul von Hindenburg refuses to pay German reparations or debts after the First World War. 1929, this was all leading up to the emergence of Hitler. Because the imposition of those huge debts upon Germany was so crippling that, you can't expect them to just sit there and cop it, and they didn't. On June 27, 1967, the world's first ATM is installed in England, in London. It was Enfield, June 27, 1967. That was the beginning of getting us online, a subject about which we'll have something to say the next little while. If not today, certainly tomorrow. The first aerial refueling, Captain Howell H. Smith and Lieutenant John P. Richter performed the first ever aerial refueling in a DH 4B biplane on this day in 1923. I'm sure I've got pictures of people walking out on the wing of an aeroplane and refueling the plane while it was in the air from a jerry can. Anyway, I have no idea how they'd be refueling in 1923. I suppose out on the wing with a jerry can. Wouldn't surprise me. The Liberty Bell returns to Philadelphia after the British depart. 1778, the first atomic power station opens. And who would you reckon had the first atomic power station? I mean, the Americans had the technology, but the Russians managed to, I guess through fairly devious means, get a lot of the secrets. In Moscow, Russia, 1954, Helen Keller, American political activist, author, The Story of My Life, lecturer, first deaf-blind person to earn a BA degree at university. 1880 she was born. Salman Rushdie, condemned to death by Iran, contributes $8,600 to help their earthquake appeal. And they did try to kill him several times, and he's still on their wish list for death. The Broadway musical actress Ethel Merman, she was 56. She weds Academy Award-winning actor Ernest Borgnine. What was that PT boat thing that he had? Well, it wasn't Gilligan's Island, was it, Pete?
No, I think it was PT 409 or something like that.
No, that was John Kennedy's.
I don't know.
It was very funny, though. Send-up of the war. But anyway, they were married in Beverly Hills.
Oh, McHale's Navy.
McHale's Navy. Yeah. Very good. Good. Anyway, 1964 they got married. J.J. Abrams, American writer, producer, director. Lost, Star Wars, Force Awakens, born New York City, New York, 1966. Wow. Joseph Smith, the American founder of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, in other words. He was shot by a mob, 1938. 1844 was the year. The government introduces a plan to bring back national service for 16-year-olds. That was 2018. Some of the things, ladies and gentlemen, for which we remember the day. Sad to see that we've lost another high-profile individual. He served under 4 Labour Prime Ministers, just about all the time on the front bench. I'm talking about Simon Crean, trade unionist, old-fashioned Labour guy. His dad, well, he was an old-fashioned Labour guy as well. A bit like Kim Beazley. They were father and son. Father left Parliament and son came in. Runs in the family, I suppose. He had, Simon Crean, so many portfolios over the years. I can't remember how many times he was on my show, but I remember him as a nice, effective gentleman. Died on a business trip to Germany, apparently. 74. Our sympathy to his loved ones. The world had better strap itself in, I think, with a seatbelt. Made for the times. Tricky times. Considering the strange 24 hours over the weekend through which we have lived, Russia, still an enigma wrapped in a mystery. When Putin retained the Wagner mercenaries, this guy, Prigozhin, his former chef, and a jailbird, by the way, going way back, my bet is that he did it knowing that his regular army did not have it in their heart to invade and fight the people of Ukraine. Wagners, infamous warriors that worked in Syria. There are thousands of them in Libya, various African dictatorships around the place. Well-paid, well-trained professionals, a ruthless fighting machine. Just what Putin needed. What could possibly go wrong? Out of the blue, they turn on him. Yes, there was some story about artillery that fell short and hurt his people rather than Putin's enemies. But then they march on Moscow. There's a lot of political blood in the water, and there are many sharks. There are now real cracks in this ruthless regime that Putin runs. Prigozhin actually threatened civil war. Can you imagine that? I know this is a little Machiavellian, but money bought these people. They're mercenaries. For more money, they might change sides. They're guns for hire, no loyalty. Now, I've got no real idea, but did Ukraine or the United States make them a better offer? A secret deal to change sides? What a delightfully delicious solution. And oh, by the way, if you can knock off Putin at the same time, there's the emperor standing there with no clothes on. Anyway, it's just a thought. Putin had better be careful at the moment. He's got a reprieve, a breather, a solution brokered by these Belarus Russians. Well, they're not Russians really, but they are the same cultural roots really. Belarus. Anyway, the Russians like a good revolution, a good uprising. God knows they've had a few. This could be Putin's Tsar Nicholas moment. Not right now, but I think it's looming. There's more to play out with all of this. And the big worry, of course, is that they have atomic weapons. Are they safer in the hands of Putin, or is a unstable Russia a better option? Where will it end? The Russian army had their suspicions confirmed. Their suspicion was that the whole war was based on a lie. And he was this guy who stood up and actually said it. They will now be more demoralized than they were before. And a brilliant moment for Ukraine to step up their offensive, which has been a bit of a damp squib, really. NATO could seize the moment as well and get those promised F-16 aircraft into the fight. Now would be the moment. Anyway, there are people who devote their lives to watching Russia. And this will be a fascinating time for them. Newcastle, here in Australia, closer to home, has recorded an unemployment rate of 2.8%. Now that is remarkable, with implications, of course, for interest rates, because the better the economy looks, the higher the interest rates will go. That's how it works. But you've got to balance that with a steady increase in bankruptcies, builders, swimming pool manufacturers, department stores, craft brewers, gyms, physical gymnasium people. The economy is definitely slowing. So come that moment when the Reserve Bank decides on the interest rates next month, it's going to be an interesting, difficult, probably line ball decision. Cheaper childcare is coming. I don't know if you heard that. cheaper childcare is coming for people earning all the way up to $500,000 a year. You'd think they could look after their own children, wouldn't you? And already, even as the Prime Minister makes the big popular announcement, childcare centres announce increases in prices from the 1st of July. It's a perfect case of a dog chasing its tail. You see, no one pays. It's like Medicare. Everyone pays, you idiots. Like Medicare, costs go through the roof. When will these socialists ever learn? And you don't even means test childcare. People up to $500,000 have their children looked after by the taxpayer. It's amazing. They don't means test childcare, but if you're an aged pensioner, you earn $1 extra and you get penalised. Beyond belief. A new survey has revealed that 3/4 of Australians want a physical bank branch. Yes. Pete, what do you reckon?
Yes, I want a bank branch.
I do too. I like going in and flirting with the girls behind the counter. I like it. A physical bank branch. Something we could walk into. Even though 99% of all banking is apparently now done online. It's interesting. 3/4 of Australians say they still want a physical bank branch. This is according to the Finance Sector Union. They say 1,600 bank branches across the country have closed between June 2017 and June 2022. It's a lot of jobs. And there is a disproportionate number of closures in the regional areas, of course. Now, I understand the urge the banks have to get every one of us online, but I resist, just like I resist them taking away my checkbook. And when something happens, like yesterday, when the Commonwealth Bank, biggest bank in the country, has to apologise because of a computer glitch that meant the whole system went down for an inconvenient period of time. You couldn't use your credit card, no banking, couldn't buy anything. What if you wanted to get petrol or a cup of coffee or whatever? I just think, in all honesty, the system online works beautifully until it doesn't. And then we're all stuffed. But listen, when 3/4 of us, well, 3/4 of the population want a physical bank branch, whatever happened to the customer is always right. I firmly believe that. The customer's always right. We've got time for one more, maybe? I wanted to talk to you about this Ocean Gate thing, named, unfortunately, close to Watergate. Ocean Gate, Watergate. Sadly, these people, the owners and operators of the the submersible, the Titan, I think it was called, they did everything they could, apparently, to avoid regulation and registration of that craft. Cutting edge that it was, that venture, out of the square, thinking outside the square, lateral thinking. You mix all of that with billionaire thrill seekers who, believe it or not, signed a disclaimer exonerating the operators of all responsibility in the event of a disaster. Wow. Now, I don't want to speak ill of the dead. It's an awful tragedy. But how do you get to be that rich and that stupid and that reckless? I don't know. It turns out that the craft, apart from having avoided inspection and what do they call it, certification, was made of titanium and carbon fibre. Very strong individually, but in combination totally untried, especially at those sort of depths. 4,000 metres. There is talk of this stuff having great strength, but in different circumstances. It disintegrates under stress. You wouldn't get much more stress than down there, that pressure at 4,000 meters below the surface. $250 per person was the cost. And I guess no refunds.
250 or?
It was 250,000 per person.
Yeah.
There were 5 people who tragically died, but more or less at the same time. I mean, that story occupied the best part of the last 4 or 5 days. Round about the same time, there was a boat that was making its way from Libya with asylum seekers or migrants, or call them what you like, some 700 of them crammed on this boat, this ferry boat, by unscrupulous people smugglers. The boat capsized. They were trying to get to Italy off the Greek coast. It upturned. The loss of life was horrific. I don't think they can even calculate the loss of life. Very few survivors. But not the publicity that these stupid billionaires got. It's on a different scale, isn't it? The media doesn't respond to everything. One sort of wonders where their moral compass is. I suppose I could be accused of the same thing because I tagged that on the end of what I was saying about the Titan, where it should have been the main story, I suppose. Anyway, thank you very much for viewing the Court of Public Opinion, ladies and gentlemen. Believe in yourself. Pete and I will be back tomorrow. Goodbye for now.